Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to today's reading lesson. This week, we're going to be focused on determining author's perspective. So I've got a picture of one of our favorite authors up there. That's Jason Reynolds. He's the guy who wrote The Crossover and booked those books that are in prose that you all love. So I put him up there so that you guys could see what he looks like. So often we have authors' words in our heads, but we don't get to see them. So that was cool to get to see him. So we're talking author's perspective this week. We really want to focus on these ideas down here. We're really asking ourselves, what does the author think? And more importantly, what are they trying to get me to think? Author's perspective is that skill you're going to need going into middle school and high school and life, where people will try to convince you of stuff with their writing and they make it sound like they've got it all figured out. You're going to be a detective to figure out, what is the person giving me this information? What do they think? What are they trying to prove? So before we jump into author's perspective too far, let's look at some other words for it, because depending on what school you're in and what state you're in, I've noticed teaching in other states, when you get to college, different colleges might have different words for it. So right now, when we say these words here, author's perspective, sometimes they'll call it their point of view, especially in nonfiction. What's the author's point of view? Sometimes they'll say, what's the author's opinion? What does the author think? They'll sometimes call it the author's viewpoint. And then we've been calling it author's perspective. All of those terms pretty much mean the same thing. And the big thing is, how does the author see things? So I've got glasses here. How does the author see things? So you might say, well, as I'm reading, I can see that they are really focused on the money issue of this problem, or they are really focused on the learning issue of this problem. They're really focused on the animal aspect of this problem. Be thinking about, what do they see? Also, this is another big one. What do they believe? So I've got the brain with the gears. Whenever somebody's writing nonfiction, they believe something about that topic, whether they think the thing they're writing about is the coolest thing in the world, or whether they're writing about something that they dislike. You can think about our opinion pieces about plastic, and a lot of you came away believing that plastic was harmful to our environment, and a lot of you wrote with that perspective. So today we're going to be seeing if we can figure out an author's perspective. So when we're thinking about the author's perspective, there's three big ideas that we're on the lookout for. The first one is over here. It's the content, which basically means, what does the text say? When we're talking about that, we're really looking for the information that's in the text. So like, what are the key details? We talked a lot about key details, and one of our main strategies for finding key details is to look at the signposts. So the first thing to look at is content. The next thing we're going to look at is the structure. How is the text organized? So when we're talking about the structure, we're talking text features and text structures. So just to review, text features is when we're talking about pictures or captions, when you've got titles and subheadings, anything that they added to help focus your attention. That can be like maps and graphs and all of that. So text features are a great clue. Also, text structures. That's one of the newer things we've been talking about. How do they write their paragraphs? Are they using cause and effect, problem and solution, sequence? Are they using description? Are they telling things in a time order? How exactly are they giving you the information? So that's the idea of structure. And the last one, and this one is the biggest one, so I'm going to do a wavy line for this one. This one's a big one. Word choice. Word choice means, what specific words did the author use? So one of the first things we look for are the verbs. You could describe a bird as soaring majestically through the sky, or you could describe a bird as hurling through the sky. Those give two different visuals. If you're soaring majestically, you're trying to make something sound really cool and important. If it's hurtling through the sky, it sounds kind of out of control. So the verbs they use to describe things are a big clue as to how they feel about stuff. Also take a look at the describing words they use. Is something being described as in a negative way? Like when we read about plastic, a lot of things were described as plastic is choking the oceans, or this debilitating aspect of humanity. When they talk about things in a negative way, you get a clue as to how the author feels. Likewise, the author might describe something with really positive words. And that brings us to this last idea, which is tone. If you look at the higher level words they use, you start to notice a pattern. Are they using happy words? Are they using really negative words? Are they using exciting words or boring words? The type of words that the author is using is a great clue into how they feel about it. All right, this one is from a ReadWorks article about voting because this week you're going to be doing a lot of reading about voting. Here we go. Have you ever heard someone being called an idiot? If you have, what they are really being called is someone who does not vote. The word idiot comes from the Greek word idiotes. In ancient Greece, this was a word for someone who kept to himself. Idiotes did not participate in Greece's public life or politics. They did not vote or debate important issues. Today, voting is the most important way American citizens participate in politics. Citizens can vote for candidates in national and state elections. On the national level, they can vote for the president and members of Congress. On the state and local level, they can vote for the governor, state representatives, state senators, and people like the mayor and city council. Different candidates have different beliefs. People usually vote for the candidate whose beliefs are closest to their own. Most people want a candidate who will represent them and their beliefs in office. Stop and ask yourself first, we're going to take a look over here at content. What did you notice about the content? What do we think this is really about? That's where your again and agains play in. I heard, well, first of all, there's a lot of idiot in the beginning. Don't start calling your siblings an idiot. All right, there's a lot of idiot in there. And what did they tell us an idiot was? An idiot is somebody who does not vote. That was another again and again. We have vote there, vote here, voting. Citizens can vote. On the national level, they can vote. There's a ton of vote. Were there any other times you felt like something was repeated? Ooh, I noticed they use the word beliefs a lot. Beliefs, beliefs, beliefs. So it sounds like the author is saying with the voting and the beliefs that people vote based on what they believe is important. So I always look for again and agains first. If the author repeated a word or an idea over and over, it's pretty important. What else did you notice in this one that felt like content? Do we have any memory moments? Let's see here. We can do we always take my aunt, we, words of the wiser. No. We have our again and agains. Tough questions. No. Memory moment. Aha moment. Not really. Contrast and contradiction. A little bit here. We talk about American citizens and we've got national level and we can compare it to the state and the local level. So that's like our town as opposed to the whole country. So a little bit, but it looks like overall they're talking about how voting, if you don't vote, people used to call you an idiot. And now voting is about saying what you believe. Okay, so we attacked the content. Voting is about choosing people and ideas that you believe in. Let's switch over to structure. All right, looking at structure, we were thinking text features. So that could be things like, are there any photos or captions? Not really. This is just an essay piece. This one isn't like a cool magazine article. What about text structures? Do we have any contrast and contradiction? Are we comparing two different things? I feel like that first paragraph has one. It starts out talking about the Greek word idiot, and then the next one jumps into like comparing it to voting. So at first I thought it was going to be about ancient Greece and idiots. And then I realized, oh no, they're talking about voting. They were using this whole first paragraph up here to connect ancient Greek word idiot to voting. That's really interesting. So we've got that going on. What about this paragraph down here? What would be the structure that they used? It looks like over and over they're giving pieces of information about one central topic. So if you have different pieces of information about one central topic, probably a description paragraph. So I know that the author surprised us in the beginning by making us think they were going to talk about one thing that was negative, and then they tied it into voting and described it. Awesome. All right, let's take a look now at our word choice. That's right here. Word choice. Did they use positive words or negative words? Let's look in the first paragraph. How would you just think about that? Positive or negative? To me, that one felt really negative. and it felt negative about people who didn't vote. So if I'm going to think negative, the author sounded pretty negative about people who didn't vote up there. Let's look at the second paragraph. Ooh, I caught one of those extra nonfiction signposts. We had, I'm forgetting our acronym for that one, but one of them was extreme or absolute language. They told us voting is the most important way American citizens participate in politics. Most important. So the author is talking about voting as being the biggest thing that you can do. So if I put the content is telling me that this piece of writing is about how voting is important. The structure compares and contrasts idiots from Greek times to people who don't vote. And the word choice sounds negative about people who don't vote, and then says voting is the most important way with its extreme and absolute language word choice. It seems like the author's perspective here is that if you don't vote, you're an idiot. Plain and simple. Voting is super important, and if you don't vote, you're an idiot. That's what the author thinks. That's their perspective. So this week, that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to be using these three things. You're going to look at the content, you're going to look at the structure, and you're going to look at the word choice and see if you can figure out author's perspective from different pieces of writing. And we're going to focus on voting rights this week because it's really important. Normally this time of the year, we would be reading about the Constitution and talking about what your rights are as you age up and become an adult. So this week, that's what you'll be looking at. If you feel like you need some extra time, grab a piece of blank paper, go back to the previous slide and make yourself some notes that you can use. And I'm excited to read what you write about. Catch you later.